Welcome, bienvenue, welcome once again to another live stream. The keener-eyed of you will notice a certain resemblance to a person who was here only a few hours ago on Property Quorum, every week, shameless plug, 10 o'clock. Today, I'm with Chris Gilsenan of Route Home, where we tend to talk about things property-related. In this particular case, we have a quite an interesting topic. Which is all about collaboration. Now, I've been banging on about collaboration for years, and there's enough room for everyone out there. But collaborating with other investors who have deals they want to sell, but no one to sell them to. Do you come across this a lot, Chris?
I mean, I was in that position a long time ago. It's where we first started. So when we first started, maybe 15 plus years ago, we were constantly in and out the estate agents, finding deals, and then just hitting this wall all the time because we didn't have any money ourselves. We had a shit mindset around money, so didn't necessarily have the right, I guess, the lingo and the aptitude to go and close money for our own deals. And then we were in a position where we were like, well, what do we do with the deal? So we had a deal, but we didn't necessarily have buyers to sell those deals onto. And it was an obvious next step for us at that point in time, other than raising the capital, of course.
But yeah, I seem to remember you were just before the government change. I think it was 2 weeks before. You said you had deals all over the shop, but you needed investors to close them. And then within a week, it had gone to the opposite way around. It's like you were closing right, left, and center.
That's right. Yeah, we did a month's worth of business in about 2 days,
so, which is nutty.
It kept us on our toes. Yes.
So if we can hark back, to the beginning of your, because for you it's been a proper journey. You did some training, but I suspect the training pales into insignificance compared to real life. And going through the meanderings of what people really do in those circumstances. But if you said you were at that position, so what lessons did you learn from that?
I think at the time, having buyers is very helpful because then you're not just closing random deals for random people, but also having a niche. So having buyers that they're after something specific, something that you can qualify and quantify. And then you can effectively treat it like a shopping list. So the fact that we've been in the social housing niche for the last 3.5 years, focusing very much on buy-to-lets and small scale HMOs, C3 to C4, so under 7 beds primarily. That gives us a niche in itself that we can have conversations with other people who are looking for those types of projects or those types of properties with a view to, well, it could be converted into this or that. Maybe that will work for Chris and his business.
So having a niche, that wasn't always the way, was it? I mean, you've been doing this for what, 15 years, I think you said in total.
Plus, yeah, I mean, when we first started, we were very haphazard, just trying to get stuff done, and so we were looking at anything and everything.
Right.
We quickly fell into specific strategies or niches, I guess. Starting with the professional HMOs, that is really the only way to progress, I guess. We've bounced across a variety of different strategies, almost finding what we did and did not want to be doing, and that's been a challenge in and of itself, because it's almost you're starting from fresh every time, going through a learning cycle,
right.
Yeah, like I say, there's always what we found is that there's always an appetite for people to get involved in property in some capacity. There's always lots of hungry new people getting into property, or even people who've been around a while that they're finding projects and they're getting them agreed, or know that they could get them agreed at a certain price that is actually really decent. But it doesn't necessarily align with their strategy, or they don't have the capital to purchase it themselves, or they are focused on sourcing to other people, but they don't necessarily have the buyers in place at the moment. So I appreciate very much how much hard work there is at the front end, how much it's really, really shoe leather, pounding the streets, going and doing all the viewings, going and running all your numbers, going and placing all your offers. So there's a huge amount of work at the front end to get deals closed, and I do appreciate that because I've been there. So yeah, then having not been able to monetize an opportunity when it does come good is not a great place to be.
Collaboration, though, until recently flew in the face of property business. Oh, everybody holding their cards close to their face. It was very much, it felt very much until relatively recently a much more I clasp you to my bosom while I stab you in the neck. But I mean, the truth of the matter is, and it has been demonstrated, dare I say it, through some of the members of Property Quorum as well, collaborating together, working together towards the overall goal, and everyone benefits.
I think that's partly a mindset thing. If you go into each opportunity thinking this is the only one, that scarcity mindset will probably hold true for you. The reality is there's 20 million residential units in the UK. There's plenty of opportunity. It's abundant. So yeah, if one deal doesn't work out, I'll just move on to the next one. It's really no skin off our nose.
All right. It's strange though, because right now, when we are at this nexus period where everybody's waiting to see what's going to drop with regards to landlords and the changes in there, doesn't that make a difference to the buy-to-let community?
I think it does to a point. I think we spoke about this previously, that the people who are dabbling in it, who you may call it derogatory, but I would class them as the amateurs or the second incomers. I
call them accidental landlords.
That's a generous term. Yes. Okay, we'll go with that. So the accidental landlords, but yeah, I think they're the ones that they may sit on the fence, waiting to see what happens. I think most professional industries, they will just weather the storm. Whatever's going to come at them, it's just another challenge, another obstacle, something to deal with, something to take on board. Maybe it's going to make a little dent on your bottom line. Maybe it's some extra regulation or some extra part of your team that you need to incorporate.
Right.
And some extra processes. Yeah. The thing is, regulation is always going to change. It's always going to be adapted. We live in a very bureaucratic society.
Ever more so.
Yes. Yeah. Ever more so.
I mean, let's face it. The Tories were all about removing all the checks and balances. Now we've got a government in that slowly, I think, wants to put some of those either back on or put new ones on. Regulation is both a bane and supportive. I think it's
on the whole. It's there's some elements like the hard push for net zero, which is utterly ridiculous. There's the hard push for things like EPC ratings at C, which is a wonderful pipe dream, but doesn't really acknowledge the huge amount of cost and investment it would take to increase infrastructure to that level. And
yeah, that's the thing is, people often come up with these ideas without thinking about the on costs, the infrastructural changes that are going to be, and then of course the cost of the people involved to make all those changes. Well, and who's going to pay it?
The obvious thing that would happen is the landlord will look at the bill, say, no, I'd rather sell, and we'll sell. And then you've got one less house in the private rental sector.
Well, it won't, because you'd buy it. Sorry.
I would, but my offer would have already factored in the cost of refitting to the sea. So yeah, I guess the landlord would still pay in that instance.
Yes, of course. Absolutely. But I mean, it heartens me to see how well you guys are all working together, Hamish, you and Juliet, for instance, in that example. But yeah, it's a thing that we keep championing, which is localized, focused knowledge. And I would say the accidental landlord doesn't necessarily haven't got that kind of team behind them, and B, perhaps haven't got that being pleasant and kind about it. that yen to find out who are the best people for the job. They probably go to the nearest estate agent and say, who do you recommend will be the best lawyer, knowing full well they're going to be given a kickback for the right ones, you know?
The thing is, Gareth, we've got a huge appetite to continue collaborating with good quality people. We're just looking for good quality people in different local areas. We have an appetite to continue rolling out stock in our social housing niche. We're really looking for ongoing relationships with other registered providers who they have a demand for property, but they don't want to buy, but they will offer a long-term lease for good quality stock. And we've already got collaboration partners in different parts of the country. One of our partners, for example, that will probably put from a standing start 100 grand onto their business this year, just from the work that we've been doing together. And yeah, we want more of that because it's a local person in that local area building relationships with a local registered provider who has a housing need. And we're just facilitating these transactions by bringing in some of our clients who they want to own property. They want the hands-off scenario of a long-term lease, but they also want to be operating in this social housing space. The same works for local contractors. Again, we've got projects in numerous parts of the Northwest, starting to expand onto the East Coast as well. And again, it's exactly the same. We want to be collaborating with local teams in local areas, and it is just win-win. We have a huge pipeline of transactions coming through. We need partners anyway. So yeah, we need suppliers across a whole range of different abilities to help us grow the business. So yeah, it's really important for us.
It's one of the reasons why I rail against some networking groups who persist in saying, "Oh, we'll lock out your competition," when I actually want to talk to my competition.
Yeah.
In the same way as you do in so many ways, because there are so many opportunities for positive collaboration and ongoing relationship.
I agree. There's absolutely no chance that I'm going to go and track and acquire every project every other property investor is looking at. It just doesn't work like that. And actually, some of the best collaborations that I've had are actually coming out of networking events where all my competitors are in the same room. Yes,
I think it's a very, I call it 1990s school of thought, where you keep all your cards close to your face and you don't share anything with anyone. I know a lot of printers were at the heart of the move over to digital printing. They were a bit like that. Well, I'm not going to tell them about anything I'm working on just in case they steal it from me. I think there's lots more opportunities. I mean, in my game, which is all about LinkedIn promotion and lead generation, I've actually had work with another lead generator who passed over a client to us because they didn't have the capacity, and they made something out of it. We got a great relationship. We've got an ongoing relationship with them, and I absolutely welcome it. I'm sure you do as well. Before we draw this to a close, what do you see short term is the way forward? Should it be that almost should be more property clubs where people all doing much the same thing, but trying to look for new ideas and support?
I think certainly for investors, they should be looking out for collaboration opportunities at every opportunity. There's always different angles to monetize things. The amount of deals I've left on the table over the years from not having the right connections is just mind-blowing. It's actually really frustrating if I did look back over it with sort of a magnifying glass. But yeah, it's probably the best bit of advice I can give anyone who's fresh to starting out, or even just wants to increase the volume of throughput in their business. That go and see who you can collaborate with. Go and see what other people are needing, and seeing if that actually fits with something that you're providing.
I mean, it doesn't have to be particularly parochial. It doesn't have to be in the same area. I'm interested in this East Coast. Hang on, do they do East Coast? I don't know how they do it. Your work on the East Coast is via collaboration, yes?
Yes. Yeah.
and that will potentially, net you interest in a number of properties over there that you will probably never visit.
Yeah, we're building portfolios over there for some of our clients. Yeah.
Which is great, because you're expanding the reach of your business without having the onerous task of having to keep tabs on every little part of it.
That's right. Yes. Yeah. And thankfully, working with new providers in those different areas, new registered providers, which is fantastic.
All right. So I suppose the lesson here is, don't be scared of talking to the competition. You may well find that they need you as much as you need them. Chris, every day a school day. Thanks for helping me understand more about this. I knew nothing about property before I started talking to Chris. As we said, he indirectly is becoming a sort of indirect property mentor. Very useful person to know. If you have property questions, if you are an accidental landlord, if you are thinking that you had enough and maybe you want to sell up because you can see where the direction of travel is going within the government, and are scared about no fault evictions being removed and stuff like that. If that is what's worrying you, talk to Chris. He may well have solutions for you that you had not yet considered. Chris Gilsenan of Roothome, thank you very much. Remember, guys out there, keep your feet on the ground, keep reaching for the stars, and try and look after that mental health. It's going to be a warm weekend. Wear sunscreen. Bye-bye now.